Welcome to Reddit Tea Time. This story is from r/entitledparents. So since it finally started to warm up, me and some of my friends, all 19 to 22-year-olds, decided to go on a road trip. We decided the appropriate thing to do is to go to a water park and theme park that were right next to each other and spend a few days out there for spring break. So we get the theme park out of the way first and have a good time. Then a few days later, we head to the water park. So here's the thing. It's a water park, so obviously I'm gonna have my shirt off for a large amount of the time. I also happen to have a few tattoos, not to the point where my whole body is essentially covered, but a good amount. I have one on my wrist that is barely even noticeable, which is some Japanese writing. The other one is on my other wrist, and it's kinda hard to explain, but it basically wraps around my wrist and has some lines coming out of it. It's way better than it sounds, I swear. The third and final one is the most noticeable since it's a big back tattoo of a cross. Anyway, we get there and the first day goes well. It's a huge water park, so we obviously want to ride all the slides. So I'm walking back to our table from the bathroom, and when I'm almost there, this lady looking like she's in her mid-40s walks up and stops me. I'm a bit confused, so I just wait a minute before just saying, "Yeah?" And she immediately says that she has kids here and she doesn't want to see that. So I don't know what she's referring to and hoping nothing is sticking out of my shorts. She immediately points to one of my tattoos on my wrist. "That? My tattoos? Is there anything wrong with it?" "Yes, this is a place for kids and I don't want you influencing them to get one of these things." So I'm not really annoyed, just confused, since this is a place where 90% of the people have their shirts off and at least a few of them will have a tattoo of some kind. So I tell her, this is a public place and everyone has their shirt off. A good amount of them probably have tattoos. Of course, everything I'm saying isn't word for word since I can't remember every single word, but this is basically how it went. She completely ignores what I say and tells me to put my shirt on, which I obviously say no to. She tells me to put it on or she's gonna call security. I tell her to do it and she walks off. I go back to my table and sit down with my friends, and they were literally watching everything go down, and I'm a bit nervous. Even though I know I wasn't in the wrong, I still didn't want to get in trouble with security. About 5 minutes later, me and my friends go to another slide and she comes running up to us with a security guard behind her. She tells him that I wasn't supposed to have them out and he was just as confused as I was since he didn't see anything wrong and she didn't specifically say it was the tattoos. He asks her what she's talking about and she gets even more mad and points to one of my tattoos. "Those!" He asks her what's wrong with it and she goes off on both of us, saying how I shouldn't have those in a kid's place and she doesn't want her kids seeing this. He apologizes for her and tells her to stop bothering me. She storms off and I continue with my trip with my friends. I saw her a few times again throughout the trip, but I don't think she saw me. The fact that this woman, who OP describes as being in her mid-40s, can't even bring herself to say the word tattoo is hilarious. I bet you she's secretly attracted to OP and all his tattoos. I mean, I imagine she's probably some repressed housewife who is so afraid that if she says the word tattoo, it'll somehow unleash the inner beast in her and she'll like jump OP and beg him to have his way with her. Oh my gosh. I don't know why people can't just live and let live. I mean, just mind your own business. Go and look after your kids instead of chasing after some stranger. This next story is from r/entitled people. One afternoon, I decided to walk to a strip mall from my apartment. I walked on the sidewalks along a neighborhood road that runs parallel to a very busy road. Often people get frustrated on that main road and will barrel down the neighborhood road. So the town installed several stop signs and speed bumps along the neighborhood road. 1 block from the strip mall, there's a non-standard intersection. Instead of the usual 4-way stop signs, There are stop signs for traffic on the neighborhood road, but there are no stop signs for traffic coming out of an apartment complex. There are big signs saying that the apartment complex traffic has the right of way, necessary because of the way their road curves around a building and climbs a hill. Drivers can't see until they're already into the intersection. Speed limit is 25 miles per hour too. I notice a fancy car coming from behind me and speeding towards that non-standard intersection. Not sure how fast, but definitely more than 25 miles per hour. I'm close to this intersection when I hear some screeching tires and horn blowing. Apparently, the fancy car man blew through his stop sign and almost hit a car that was coming into the intersection from that road that doesn't have to stop. Fancy car man starts yelling and cursing at the other driver. Then I see blue lights come on. There was a cop sitting at the opposite stop sign who saw the whole incident unfold in front of him. He tells Fancy Car Man to shut up and sends the other driver on her way. Then he starts talking to Fancy Car Man, I presume to explain what he did wrong. At this point, I've walked up close enough to hear their discussion. Cop is telling Fancy Car Man that he has to stop at that stop sign, but crossing traffic doesn't have stop signs, as indicated by other warning signs. Fancy Car Man is irate, then says, I don't have accidents. Stop signs are for other people. He included several curse words that I have left out, some directed at the cop. That's enough for the cop. He cuffs Fancy Car Man and puts him in the back of his police car. A little later, when I'm coming out of a store, I see a tow truck dragging the fancy car away. You see, this is perfect. This happens all the time, and I always wonder, where is a cop when you need one? Finally, this story has given me satisfaction. Finally, there was a cop when you needed one. Imagine some idiot saying that stop signs don't apply to him. I'm so glad that the story ended like this instead of ending in a tragic way where somebody gets hurt. Our next story is from r/entitledparents. So I was at the movies and this woman and her 3 toddlers came in halfway into a 3-hour movie. The woman started shouting at her children, well, more like whispering angrily, and later she took something out of her bag and gave it to the kids. They started running around. Turns out they were toy cars and they were playing all around the cinema. People started complaining about this to staff and talking to the woman, but she kept shouting at them saying her children weren't hurting anybody. An employee came in and started talking to the woman, but the woman was still screaming about it, saying she paid to get here like anyone else. Then the employee kicked her out and we continued the movie. When I hear stories like this, I don't really know what to think. As a parent, I would never take my children to a movie and bring their toys and let them start playing in the theater and running around and making noise and disturbing everybody. I mean, that would drive anyone crazy. You go to a theater because you really, really want to see a movie. And personally, I get irritated if somebody even so much as whispers to me when I'm watching something. I can't imagine having to hear 3 little kids running around playing with cars while I'm trying to concentrate on the movie. I know parents get exhausted sometimes, and we also would like to go to the movies, and sometimes we can't go without our children. But you always have to be mindful of other people. I mean, it's not reasonable to expect other people to be as tolerant of our children as we are. So just because you paid to get in doesn't give you and your children the right to ruin the experience for other people. Lady, next time, just take the kids to the playground and skip the movie. That's what I would have done.